Hey, you guys, just a mini episode here with one of my new favorite products. Now, this is like a podcast, but I want you to pay attention because this is a company that I've come to firmly believe in based on the fact that they're going to ask you to do your own research before implementing any product. I love a company that wants you to ask questions. They want you to dig up and look a little bit deeper before you make a decision so that you can decide for yourself if this product is right for you. Now, I love this for immune boosting. I'm excited to utilize it in my own health as well as some clients that I'm working with. So I think you're going to really enjoy this. I think you're going to get a lot out of it, and I hope that you do. Let's dive in. Well, welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I am, as usual, Jodelle, and it's kind of that time of year again. It's where the weather gets cooler and the days get shorter and our immune systems get a little weaker and the cold and flu season rears its ugly head. So while we're well aware of the whole food vitamin C as an adjunct, quercetin, getting adequate sunlight and vitamin D for immunity, what about a couple of immune boosters that are well researched and not only amp up your immune system to prevent the typical cold and flu, but also help with muscle building, fat loss, lowering cholesterol naturally, and increasing energy? So if you're going to fight the cold and flu, you might as well do it with some things that have actually been really well researched to help in a wide variety of ways, including your gut. So today we're talking not only about one specific fatty acid, which I happen to really love and have used with a lot of clients, but also an amino acid, which I happen to be excited about because there's a lot of research around it. So if the curiosity is killing you about what those two things are, we'll dive right in. I've invited Damon Sununtnasuk, serves as the chief executive officer of this company called Natural Cure Labs. And it's operating specifically these blends that I have really found move the needle. And we're going to talk about how that is. And he has an internationally decorated career in health and entrepreneurial leadership. And his work and his travel has taken him to more than 70 countries across the 6 continents. And he's the founder and president of several award-winning companies, including a recognized strategy consulting firm with a global client base. So Damon, you have a slew of Bachelor of Science and all these different great things in business administration and all these different universities, the University of Florida, University of Cambridge, England, magna cum laude. So he's well decorated. He knows what he's talking about. I've invited him on because these topics we're going to discuss are pertinent to my listeners. I never promote a product or a substance or anything that I myself haven't tried and love and have a variety of reasons for recommending. So let's dive in with you, Damon. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah. And if I butchered your last name, you can tell them how to say it again. We're specifically going to talk about something called monolaurin and as well as L-Lysine. So I want the listeners to really tune in because there's more to these molecules than meets the eye. So what is monolaurin? Let's start there, Damon.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic place to start. And so, look, monolaurin may or may not be familiar to some listeners, but assuming that it's not familiar, let's start where the whole story begins, which is with lauric acid. So, as you teased in the setup, lauric acid is a medium chain fatty acid found naturally in some plant oils and indeed in human breast milk. So lauric acid was first isolated in human breast milk in the 1950s. It has a very interesting like background story. I'm not 100% sure if it's correct, but I love the story. It goes something like scientists were curious why infants who don't have a very strong immune response or immune system built up quite yet weren't habitually getting sick. So the hypothesis was, well, maybe there's something in their diet which is supporting their immune system. And in investigating human breast milk, they isolated several properties, and one of them being lauric acid, which sent us off on this huge journey, which sort of got us where we are here today. So lauric acid, apart from human breast milk, is actually found in a couple plant oils. One is palm kernel oil, and the other is coconut oil. So lauric acid constitutes around 50% of the fatty acid makeup of coconut oil. And so that's where all the research lies. That's where a lot of the immune supporting properties benefit from a lot of the studies that have been published since the 1960s. And that's what monolaurin is derived from. So monolaurin is sort of how your body converts lauric acid when it's consumed.
Mm.
And it's sold in supplement form. Um, it's used in several industries. So people today are probably consuming monolaurin, whether they know it or not. Monolaurin is used in commercial food production. It's used in the manufacturing of things like ice cream and pastas. It's used in the cosmetic industry as a surfactant and a
Mm.
shelf stabilizer. And it's even sprayed on the outsides of fruits and vegetables to aid in the transportation of these fruits and veggies, because studies suggest that it can help keep maintain freshness
Mm-hmm.
when these fruits and veggies are being shipped all over the globe. So monolaurin is great. It's used commercially already. It's even used in settings like meat processing. So meat processors who want to stay a little bit more natural, a little bit more organic, can substitute monolaurin in place of like chemical cleaners when cleaning flat surfaces, because again, monolaurin, when used in these settings, expresses some antibacterial properties that can be used in place of harsh chemical cleaners. So pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, used in industry right now, in cosmetics and commercial meat processing and commercial food processing, and only recently has it been really widely embraced as a dietary supplement.
Wow, I had no idea about the fact that they were spraying it on fruits. That's new to me. So that's really interesting. That just goes to show, and especially like you said with cleaning products and stuff, like how it can really help our gut clean that up as well. Because I had used monolaurin, other forms of it with clients with things like C. diff and with candida and yeast overgrowth and things like that, and found it really beneficial for just also combating that, but boosting the immune system as well. Now, if somebody's just eating coconut oil or using it to cook with or using MCT oil, are they getting small amounts of monolaurin or large amounts? How much are they getting?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, the answer is a little bit unknown, because the ratio of which your body processes or converts lauric acid into monolaurin is not fully documented right now. We've done some internal calculations and studies, and it suggests that if you look at the fatty acid composition of coconut oil and then you make assumptions around the conversion rate in the body, in order to get the equivalent of like a 600 milligram capsule, which is a pretty standard size, and when it comes to supplements, you need to ingest something like 8 teaspoons of coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get to like maybe a therapeutic level, which may be 6 capsules a day, 2 with breakfast, 2 with lunch, 2 with dinner, it would require something like almost a cup of coconut oil, so like
Mm-hmm.
0.81 cups of coconut oil. So it's possible, but it may not be realistic or pleasant for some
Right.
people to consume that much coconut oil. So that's why a lot of people decide to take a supplement instead. It's a little bit easier. You go into it knowing the level of
Mm-hmm.
monolaurin you're going to consume, and it's all standardized and weighted appropriately.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there's like a basic dose and then there's therapeutic doses. So, what are some of the things you've seen that it's really therapeutic for?
Yeah, that response is really going to depend on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to caveat, of course, that look, I'm not a doctor. When anyone begins a new supplement regimen, or takes a new vitamin or medication, you should really work with your GP or medical professional. So the rule of thumb is really to listen to your body, right, and
Sure.
your doctor before undertaking any particular supplement, monolaurin included.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to dosing, there are a few generally recognized approaches to dosing. The first is an introductory dosing protocol, right? So it may not be the best thing to sort of jump into taking 6 capsules a day. And the reason is there's an interesting um, reaction that may happen called a Herxheimer reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps you and your listeners are familiar with this
Sure.
reaction, but it's it's a phenomenon that happens when you ingest a medication, maybe that causes a rapid die-off of some pathogen in the body, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
were to take an antibiotic for a bacteria infection, the rapid die-off of that bacteria can release these protein endotoxins into the system as a result of the cell death. And your body reacts to this with an inflammatory response, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
wants to go clean up and tidy up all these protein endotoxins that are now circulating within your system. And this can cause a reaction which is ironically similar to like a cold or flu, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So some body aches, low grade fever, like symptoms that are ironically similar to like feeling worse, right? So
Yeah.
even though you're technically getting better because the medication is doing its job, it's ridding the bacteria, you may feel worse, right? So the concept here is to avoid this die-off reaction is to introduce the supplement in a low and slow process. So starting maybe with one capsule a day and slowly increasing that over time to a level that is suitable for the individual
Mm-hmm.
rather than just like going straight for the full dose,
Yeah.
right? Another common dosing is, as you indicated, just like, hey, like a daily driver. You mentioned at the top, like a lot of people choose to take vitamin C to support their overall immune health throughout the year, and then maybe a little bit more during the wintertime. You can do the same thing with monolaurin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing about monolaurin is it is on the FDA's GRAS list. So GRAS is an acronym which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very well tolerated. You can take it daily, and I don't think that there's any upper limit either in terms of time or dose that is defined within the FDA schedule. So you can use it as like a daily multivitamin almost.
Mm-hmm.
And the third and final common application is, when you're experiencing bouts of maybe some external stressors, right? You're not feeling very well. Maybe your kids picked up a bug at school or something like that, and you just want to give your body a little bit more support from immune perspective. Some people choose to increase monolaurin under these times of elevated stress, just like you might increase zinc when you are not feeling so well, or increase vitamin C when you're not feeling so well.
Absolutely. No, that's good information because I call it poking the bear. Whenever you have the Herxheimer reaction, you poked the bear. So you went too far. And it's good to microdose at first so that you don't have that reaction that's so severe that then you find yourself in bed, So yeah, I love that you brought up the different dosages, and it's so beneficial for a variety of ways, which I kind of put a list of things we can talk about. One of the studies I'd looked up about monolaurin during the pandemic we've had is that circulating monolaurin, this is what it stated in the excerpt, which is a well-known antiviral and antibacterial property with higher in protected subjects, suggesting a potential defensive role against SARS-CoV-2 infection. Thus, the dietary supplement could boost the immune system against the infection. In addition, the data demonstrated that people with higher levels of cholesterol were at higher risk of developing the virus. And monolaurin actually is shown to lower cholesterol. Yes. So it's kind of a double effect there of both like reducing the infection, but also if it's somebody who had that higher elevation of cholesterol, it was going to lower that to put them more in a state of like, it's not going to affect them as hard. Yeah.
I'm really happy you brought that up for a couple of reasons. One is it's clear you've done your homework, which is amazing and
I
very
love
very much
research.
appreciated. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also because there's a lot of things that, as a representative of a supplement company, like I cannot say.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a small but mighty company, and try our hardest to stay as compliant as possible. And in the process of staying compliant, we try our best to stick to the rules of the FDA and FTC. And because of that, we can't make any claims, and we can't associate any research that has to do with disease profiles
Mm-hmm.
with with any particular ingredient or product, right? We can make structure function claims like will support or maintain
Mm-hmm.
immune health, but we can't go into any details, unfortunately. But what
Okay.
we can do potentially is guide people to where they can find some of this information and learn on their own, right? Don't take my word for it. Read the studies is really what it comes down to, which is I think the right approach regardless. Again, as someone who's representing a company which produces supplements, I may come to these interviews with a vested interest, right? So it really should be around the individual seeking out the information for themselves, and that's what we try to do, right? So there are a few ways which people can seek out this information and probably come to very similar conclusions and results as you did when you started poking around during the pandemic. So there are three sites that we like to recommend to customers, both potential and current. One is a government website called Pubmed. I'm sure you're
Right.
familiar with it. It's
Yep.
run by the National Institutes of Health.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an online database that has thousands and thousands of academic and scientific studies. And the majority of these studies are the gold standard, right? So they are multi-centered, placebo-controlled, double-blinded studies. And it's a great resource. It works just like Google. There's a search bar at the top. You go to PubMed, you plug in a search query that you're interested in learning more about. So, for example, you could search for monolaurin plus whatever function you're looking to learn more about, and it'll return some results. And last I looked, literally hundreds and hundreds of results on monolaurin.
Really? Yeah, for sure.
The second website we like to recommend is Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar, as the name suggests, is provided by Google, but it works a little bit differently than the normal Google webpage. Google Scholar is a completely different website, which focuses only on academic studies and published journal articles. It's great because it sort of filters out personal opinions or advertisements or marketing literature, things of that nature that you may get from a general Google search. And it just focuses on maybe the more legitimate academic research. So that's really great. And that will result in thousands of articles on monolaurin. Now, these are both great resources, but they're also, like we talked about, a little bit academic in nature. So the articles will be full of Latin words and lots of formulas and math. So if the average listener is really not up for navigating that level of detail, there is one last website which we like to recommend, which is monolaurinandmore.com. It's a third-party website. It's unaffiliated with any brands. It seems to do a good job on summarizing and highlighting particular research. The articles are all grouped into different categories that cover a lot of the things that you mentioned. There are articles on gut health, like you talked about. There are articles on respiratory viruses, as you mentioned. There are articles on keto diet and weight loss and weight control. It's really, really fascinating. And what's nice about it is it's like the Reader's Digest version. It takes all the research and condenses it down to a 1,200-word article and still does a great job of providing all the references, the links, the research, the verbatim quotes from the scientific articles, and just makes it a little bit more accessible for folks to browse. So that's what I might recommend. And what's nice about it is, like I mentioned, it sort of covers all the things you just mentioned. It does the work, that we can't necessarily champion on our own, right? So if you go there and do the research, maybe you'll come to your own individual conclusion.
No, that's great. I'm going to have the link for that website as well, and as well as some other things in the show notes for people to do their own research, because it's really nice to hear a founder of a supplement company telling people to do their research. Before you try anything, you should really do your homework. And if there's one healthy thing we can do each week is take about an hour and do a little research on something that you're interested in. Don't just take someone's word for it, mine included, or any other so-called expert or whatever's out there. You really want to hear the information, but then go and research it out and make sure it's valid. And so if people get into that practice, I think they could make their own informed decision and find the truth for themselves, so to speak. And then they're more empowered to kind of become their own healer and really listen to their body as far as like, okay, well, this study proves this and I have this going on, so maybe I'll give it a whirl and see how it affects me. Now, on the other end, there's things that you can't say that probably I can say because I'm not a part of your company. So I can say that monolaurin has really been shown to help with things like UTIs and fungal overgrowth, such as candida. And like in my own clients, like I said, I've worked with C. diff and yeast infections and things like that, that monolaurin has really been prolific for. Like it's just helped in so many ways. And what I find interesting is I didn't know at the time when I went through my toxic mold history that monolaurin is a terrific biofilm disruptor. I wasn't aware of that. So I didn't use monolaurin for that reason. But can you speak to that at all? Because you do have a monolaurin that has a biofilm support mechanism on your website as well.
Yeah. So biofilms, as people may know, form when a pathogen like a bacteria creates this protective, like outer layer,
Mm-hmm.
like this self-defensive mechanism, which prevents an antibiotic or even your own immune system from doing its job, right? Um, Biofilms can be found all over the body. The most common, they can be found in the gut, etc. But the most common is actually in the oral cavity. So
Mm-hmm.
plaque is an excellent example of a biofilm, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to get off your teeth once it starts to build up. It just continues to support and feed itself until you go to the dentist and have someone literally remove it
Right.
from your mouth. In meat processing, biofilms can be sort of a nagging challenge, and sort of how these studies have explored using certain ingredients and tackling these overgrowths in certain settings. So the research is out there. There's some really cool stuff to unpack when it comes to biofilm formations.
Very good. Now, MCT oil, this medium chain triglyceride oil that a lot of people use in the low carb or keto circle, or I know people that just use it in day-to-day life, whether they're keto or not, is beneficial, so they say, for helping burn fat and increasing energy. I specifically use MCT in people that are having issues with constipation because it really can move those bowels. So it's good for that as well. And of course, myself, I'm really sensitive to anything coconut before bed. If I take it, I get like a surge of energy. So it heats up my body and I could just, go run a marathon right before bed if I have any sort of coconut product. But can we expect the same thing as far as like, is there fat burning properties with monolaurin? Is there an increase in energy if people are looking for that, not just the immune boosting aspect?
Yeah, so by definition, monolaurin is a medium chain triglyceride. It's, I think, a carbon 12 fatty acid.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the way your body may react to monolaurin as a supplement versus, consuming it via a carrier oil like coconut oil, um, probably it can be assumed that it's probably very similar. Coconut oil contains more than just lauric acid
Mm-hmm.
as some of its beneficial acids. So, one of the benefits maybe of taking coconut oil is that you do gain access to those other medium chain triglycerides like caprylic acid or capric acid, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to lauric acid. And again, for those who are interested, can do searches on caprylic and capric acids and also find some really cool research on those as well.
Right.
But yeah, there are some articles on the Monolaurin and More website around yeah, fat and potential weight loss and keto diet applications, energy, things of that nature that goes a lot more into depth than I'm able to here.
Oh, very good. Now, if we shift gears, you've got a product that I really like that contains both monolaurin and L-lysine. And L-lysine I've used in a lot of different cases with certain viruses, like as far as herpes simplex virus, and not just, we're not talking the general, downstairs version, but a lot of people have fever blisters that just erupt over time. Every month or so, they get a fever blister, and that's a form of the herpes simplex virus. And I found that a lot of benefit from L-lysine, but more than that, there's a lot of data too that points to L-lysine being used during SARS-CoV-2. That it acts as a fat burner. It acts on protein synthesis for muscle building. So the combination of those two is a really powerful mechanism that you guys have put together. And in a little bit, I'll have a little anecdotal story with a client. And so we'll talk about that. But fill me in on the lysine. What's so great about this, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's great. So lysine is what's called an essential amino acid, which
Right.
means that your body cannot produce a lysine on its own. So it has to be obtained through diet or supplementation. There are plenty of foods that are high in lysine.
Mhm.
I think like fish and eggs and nuts and things of that nature,
Milk.
um, milk,
Mhm.
and but a lot of people choose to take higher doses of lysine, upwards of 3 grams a day, and the easiest, most effective way may be through supplementation, right? And you're absolutely right. The research behind or supporting lysine is vast and broad. It's equally broad as it is deep, right? And let's see, lysine, as we all know, it supports overall immune health, and there's plenty of research around lysine online that you can find as it relates to HSV. And you're right, HSV is a family of viruses, right?
Mhm.
People
Mhm.
often associate it with HSV 1 and 2, but it goes far beyond that. I forget the exact number, and I don't want to misquote it, but it's upwards of like 100 viruses which reside within the herpes family,
Wow.
and there are 8 or 9, I think, that can impact humans.
Mhm.
And it can cause everything from chronic fatigue syndrome to Epstein-Barr virus to shingles to cold sores, as you rightly pointed out.
Mhm.
And according to the CDC, last I checked, something like 1 in 5 Americans, have a chronic HSV infection. So it's
Mhm.
not like it's rare. It's
No.
20% of the population.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of folks can benefit from the research that sort of supports L-lysine and its use to, you know, uh, help regulate and support immune response.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I've been for about the past 8 weeks been more of in a muscle building phase. And so trying to put on some lean mass. And you had sent me your product right about the time when I was starting the that kind of phase in my life. And so I started taking the Monolaurin with L-Lysine. And I was doing muscle building, but I added this supplement and it just seemed like I'm a very hard gainer. I'm an ectomorph by nature. I don't put on muscle easy, but for whatever reason, it seemed like maybe that L-Lysine was helping because it was easier to put on muscle this time. So I just noticed that effect in my own respect. And I always love to be a guinea pig and try things before I recommend it. Now, the other anecdotal story I have is I have a family member who's also a client, and they have struggled with the herpes of the mouth, the little cold sores, as well as, for whatever reason, some little boils or some little pustules on the back of their head that would break out every so often. And
Yeah,
then
that's
for
shingles, I think.
yeah, it's not painful, but they would just be back there and he would mess with them or whatever. And so I just thought, okay, I'm going to share my bottle with him and just say, here, you try some of these, see how it goes, because if anything else, we'll just to keep the cold sores at bay. But the little pustules on the back of his head, for the first time, like they were just staying on, like they hadn't been disappearing since for about 3 years, and they were starting to dissipate. And so by the time he was done with his little ration of the bottle, they were almost completely gone. And so that was something I really found profound, because I don't know if that is also part of the herpes simplex virus that could have been making some little pustules on the back of his head, or if that was something completely different. But whatever it was working. So now he wants to continue taking it. So I'm excited about that. But that was just some anecdotal stuff I saw, that I really believe in the power of these two compounds together, because you're getting that immune boosting technology, but you're also getting the effects in so many other ways. Like I mentioned, the muscle growth, and also what I saw on some research about it increasing IGF-1 prostaglandin. So eating it, with a meal, maybe you're going to see some more growth as far as IGF-1 and growth hormone and stuff like that. So do you have a recommendation of when you think people would benefit from taking this product, time of day, or with a meal or without a meal? What do you think?
That's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing those anecdotes. That's really fascinating. Look, with regard to timing and with meals, timing shouldn't necessarily matter. What really matters is the individual sensitivity to supplements.
Hmm.
For example, uh, monolaurin is a naturally bitter and soapy compound, right? And if you're someone who has a bit of a sensitive tummy, you may want to time your supplementation with a meal because a meal can help settle the stomach and avoid any discomfort in the digestive system. Another reason you may choose to align supplementation with meals, generally speaking, is a concept of bioavailability. So having food in your stomach, increases the secretion of enzymes and so your digestive system is going to work, and that can increase the bioavailability of several types of supplements, vitamins, minerals, etc. Some vitamins are fat soluble, and so sometimes having like a bit of a carrier oil or a fat in your diet can help again increase the bioavailability of that particular supplement. But when it comes to lysine or monolaurin, it can be taken any time of day with or without meals, really when it's most convenient for the individual and depending on the individual's sensitivity to um, supplements.
Okay, very good. Now, a couple other things I noticed about L-Lysine is on the research side anyway, was that it acts like a serotonin receptor too. So it can help with anxiety, diarrhea, and ileum contractions it mentioned, and tachycardia, even things like lowering lowering cortisol, excuse me, to get that stress response down. So those were just a few things that I had noted, and I can put some of those research studies in the show notes too for people to check out. But just what you've seen, or maybe testimonials you've had from clients or customers, what stories have you heard about this combination of monolaurin and L-Lysine?
Great question. The combination was actually brought about in part thanks to clients asking for it.
Oh, wow.
Our portfolio of products is deliberately complementary in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're a mission-driven company whose mission is to provide research-based, safe, quality, and transparent supplements to help people with their wellness journey. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, the vast majority of our products are meant to support immune health. And so when we seek out research and we look for our next product or product combinations, we always keep that in mind. And it became very clear that customers were very enthusiastic about both ingredients, about monolaurin and L-lysine, because they are frankly quite complementary in nature, depending on what you're looking to use them for. And I sound like a bit of a broken record here, but if you look at the Monolaurin and More website, I think that there is an article on there about the complementary nature of monolaurin and lysine. And so it was thanks to customer enthusiasm and buying behaviors that we thought, look, if we can make a formula that allows people to gain better access to both these important supplements, make it a little bit easier by combining it into one, making it economical to take it together, great, we'll do it. And it rapidly became one of our most popular blends and most popular supplements. And customers come back month over month, year after year, um, and have really shown a high preference for this supplement. I think something like 40% of our customers come back every month, and we
Great.
just celebrated our 7th year last week. So
Awesome.
there's something that they like about it, and we'll keep producing it.
That's fantastic. No, I think the combination is brilliant, and I plan on utilizing it with more and more clients, because I haven't ever, until this product came to my knowledge, put the two together. I've only used monolaurin or L-lysine in certain situations, but never together. But now I see like how it affects the different variables I saw as far as like the herpes and muscle building and things like that. So I think it has a wide range of usage. So I appreciate your product line because it's really smartly done. So as far as that, I'm going to have the link to Natural Cure Labs in the show notes so they can check out. But do you have something that you want to recommend people look at, like maybe a personal blog of your own, or if people want to reach out to you, can they do that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for providing the opportunity to share some of that. So, look, in addition to the research tools and resources that we mentioned several times in today's podcast, I folks can always feel free to reach out to myself personally or any member of the team from our website, naturalcurelabs.com. There they can fill out a form or they can email us directly at info@naturalcurelabs.com. We've got an amazing staff of folks. We hire and partner with industry professionals, which includes medical doctors, doctors of pharmacy, PhDs, and people who are really, really invested in the industry from a compliance and legal and communication standpoint to make sure that, again, we're trying to be as buttoned up and as trustworthy, transparent, and compliant as possible. And so if I can't answer a question, for sure a member of the team can. And we love hearing personal anecdotes and stories and connecting with people within the community, and we'd be very, very happy to do so. Don't get discouraged by our lack of social media presence. It's a it's sort of a result and a factor of the fact we're trying to be super compliant, and like even like liking someone's post can set the FDA off on a witch hunt. So we don't have the most seductive or interesting social media presence, but it's not because we don't care or because we're not into it. It's just because we're trying our absolute hardest to do what we do best, which is produce amazing products and stay compliant while doing so.
Well, I can't help but love that because I'm on no social media platform except for like YouTube to post podcasts because it's just something that gives me anxiety. So I can't help but appreciate a company that would much rather put their energy into making really good quality products versus just being a presence on social media. So I believe that if a product is a really good product, it'll sell itself. It doesn't need a whole social platform to sell it for it. So it sounds like you guys believe that same thing as well. So yeah, I'll have all of that in the show notes. And you've been so generous to offer my listeners 10% off their purchase at Natural Cure Labs. So I'll have that link as well as the promo code too. And definitely you guys check it out, do your research and decide if it's right for you. But I can honestly say it's something I will be utilizing with clients as well in the future. Now, before we wrap up, I always like to ask my guests one final question. And that is Audrey Hepburn has a quote that is, I believe that every day should have at least one exquisite moment. So Damon, can you share with me what your exquisite moment would be as of today?
I love that question. Wow. Uh, this summer, I started reading a lot more and investing a little bit more in like personal reflection through mindfulness, right? So just taking
Mm,
5 minutes in the morning, to do a little breath work
yeah.
and be calm and quiet your mind a little bit. It's a very small gift that you can give to yourself because,
Mm.
like everyone listening, you're always going 1,000 miles an hour thinking about the next task, the next project, the next challenge you have to overcome. But give yourself 5 minutes just to, quiet the mind a little bit, be a little bit more mindful and be present. That's been amazing and something that I've taken a lot away from, and maybe someone else listening might do the same.
I love that. Now, did you find a certain piece of literature or a book that is helping you do that? What would that look like?
Yeah, I picked up a couple books. So I was turned on to it by a professional coach. So we hire an executive coach that helps people on the team navigate, both personal and professional questions. And this particular coach was very, very enthusiastic about two books. One book was called Waking Up by Sam Harris.
Mm.
It's a really fascinating book. I read it twice this year
Wow.
already because it's a great reference and the author is very, very convincing and in this particular book. So that's one I would recommend. The other one is called Mindfulness. The subtitle is something about a frantic world. It's sitting on the desk on the opposite side of this room, so
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to get up and grab it. But it's written by a few professors. One I think came from the University of Oxford, and the other from Pennsylvania, maybe. And it's like an 8-day guide to how to be a little bit more mindful, a little bit more present. And so those are the two books that was recommended by the coach, and that I read, and I got a lot out of it.
Oh, wow. You got to respect a company that hires a professional coach to come in and coach their employees on how to be more mindful while producing, a really good business. So I love that. That's really cool that you guys do that. Well, Damon, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. And maybe we can have you on again to talk about some other things. I know you have an andrographis on there, which looks really interesting. I've used that in a lot of different modalities too. So I love that. And yes, thank you for your time. I appreciate your insight.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'd be happy to come back anytime. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. So you can live in this technologically advanced world, in this EMF-laden world full of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and smart meters and cell phones and cell towers, and still feel good. Yeah, we're being bombarded quite a bit these days, but there's hope. And it's in a company called SPERO, SPERO.com, EMF protection that is at the height of the technology as far as like the silver they use, the fabrics they use, the amount of research that goes into their technology, and always updating it and making sure that it is keeping you safe. And I happen to love these little cell phone bags that you can simply stick your cell phone down in and you seal it up, carry it with you. There's absolutely no radiation, no text, no calls will come through. I've tested it. I've used it with my own equipment here at home, my own phone, and I got nothing when I was carrying it on me. So I was excited about that. And you can get one too by going to spero.com. Actually use the link in the notes below and you'll get 10% off your purchase there. They even have dresses that protect you from EMF, and beanies and hats and blankets. And so I really love this company, not only because they're passionate about protecting you from EMF, but because they continue to do their research and update the products. And I love that aspect. Their goal is to keep us safe. So check them out in the link below. And there's always a silver lining to staying in the modern world, but keeping safe in it. Well, if you've listened to me at all, you'll know that I preach protein, and protein is the building blocks of every healthy cell in our body. And you need protein throughout the day to sustain really good, healthy cell turnover. And I get asked a lot, what about if I don't have time for protein? I can't really get in a meat source. That's okay. I love a good whey protein. And my favorite recently has been this grass-fed whey from Iconic Protein. I love their ingredients. I love that they use a monk fruit. It's simple ingredients. There's literally 4 ingredients in this protein powder, and it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. There's a lot of grass-fed protein powders out there that are like boutique-y, and they're all about, $50, $60, $70. No, this guy's going to run you less than $30. And with my discount code, you're going to get 15% off. So check out Iconic Protein. They also have, for those of you really on the go and you don't have time for anything, even blending up a protein drink, you can get their Immunity Coffee. Now, I love my coffee. And this Iconic drink is made with MCT oil and all natural ingredients, and it actually has a few vitamins and minerals that help with immunity. So this is something I'm going to grab. I'm going to add it to my coffee. Maybe I'm going to drink it on its own. It's a really nice way to grab and go. So for those of you that say, I don't have time for protein, now you do. Check out Iconic Protein and their Immunity Coffee, as well as their different flavors of protein powder. And use my code JODELLE, JODELLE, to save 15% off your Iconic Protein purchase. Hey guys, are you in the Midwest? Are you in the East Coast? Are you in Brazil? Are you in Asia? It doesn't matter where you are. I would love to work with you as your nutritionist. And so just to let you know, I offer nutrition consulting worldwide. You can work with me anywhere. I have clients all over the world, and I love to spend time over the internet with each one of them, figuring out their specific needs. So your specific needs, what deficiencies are you having? What symptoms are you dealing with daily that we can address for you? So that's what I, as a nutrition detective, like to get to the bottom of. I ask you a ton of questions. We meet over Zoom or over FaceTime, whatever is convenient for you, and we discuss all of your specific needs. If you would like to work with me, just shoot me an email, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com. That's getfit, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com. And let's set up a 15-minute free call for you, just to see if I'm a good fit for you as a nutrition therapy practitioner. Again, email me, getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com, and let's get you set up feeling better, lose that unwanted weight that you have going on, lose those symptoms that you have hanging around, and optimize your health as best we can.